to the Girl Sis Man podcast. For the girls we were.
For the sisters we became.
And the women we're becoming.
It always takes us like 3-4 times, but I'm proud, you know.
Listen, we're getting there. I feel like the more tries it takes, it's like our good luck omen. I'm like, so if it takes us a few times, I'm like, ooh, this might be a really great episode. I don't know. It's just a weird thing that I believe.
Well, I have faith in your faith, and let's hope so, because I'm going to keep messing up every time.
And we'll take you as you are.
We will
take you as you are.
I appreciate it.
So, y'all, welcome back to the Girl Sis Man podcast. I'm Esther.
I'm Lola.
And we're going to be your hosts today and probably forever.
I hope forever. Who's going to roll up in here and take our spots?
You never know.
Are you quitting?
Are you quitting?
I'm not quitting. Listen, you?
I'm never quitting, but something I am getting ready to quit is my damn job. All right? Can we talk about it?
Please do.
Y'all, we are doing the damn thing. Not getting money at all. Not securing the bag, okay? We are the generation that is helping spur what they are calling the Great Resignation. We are quitting our jobs at an incredible pace.
I would love to join that crew. I would love to. I just don't know how they're doing it.
I was like, is unemployment still like lit? Because
they were doing this extra $300 plus your unemployment check, but that stopped. They had put like Congress so often would refresh certain laws and provincials, but I'm just like, I don't think the unemployment right now is the same unemployment that was in 2020. In 2020, people were.
Guys, if you quit your job in 2020, you actually got a new job, which was chillaxing and securing the bag without an issue.
A wonderful alternative to taking out PPE loans for a false LLC. You know who you are.
Come on now.
But yeah, people are just quitting. I appreciate it. I'm here for it.
I 100% support it. And you know what? So I did some research into this because I was like, yo, who is actually moving it? But it's actually people who are about 28 and up who are quitting. So people who are mid-career employees who are quitting. And it's because they're facing a lot more burnout, a lot more depression, or they've, over the course of the pandemic, realized that the opportunities that were once presented to them are just not as valuable as they once were. And y'all, I'm not even 28, but I'm here to tell y'all that is nothing but the truth. I encourage everyone to quit their jobs, and I say we strike.
Wait. Okay, yeah. Quit, baby, but think about this first, okay?
Fine.
There are steps to this. Now, listen, if you can secure something better before you do so, that's my approach.
That is the best approach.
Always make sure you have something to fall back on. But, maybe some people feel like I have, a lot of people moved out of the big cities into the suburbs. So maybe you're living with your parent. And your parents are like, well, you know what? While you figure this whole career thing out, you can take some time. If you have the resources and the space to do the whole quitting thing without having another job lined up, kudos to you. But if that's not your story, girl, don't do it.
Take it easy. I will say
collect that check every 14 days.
I will say, as the person who is like, quit, I'm still at my job, y'all.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
But I do appreciate the sentiment of we are no longer going to take
bullcrap.
Yes, the workforce, I think for a really long time, has always profited off of people needing the money, right?
Yeah.
Where they're saying, you know what, I will exchange my pride, my dignity for the security of a check, right? Because I have kids to feed. I need a roof over my head. And that's a really sick thing about capitalism, that, it's a little wheel.
It's very cyclical.
It is. And I mean, if you watch Squid Games, you did you watch Squid Games?
I did not.
Damn it, Esther.
You know I am always behind on the trends. If you don't specifically instruct me to do something.
Watch Squid Game within the next 7 days so that we can discuss it in the next podcast.
The next 7 days?
You said I had to request it, and I am requesting it.
Sounds like a demand, which is why people are quitting. No, but I think that what you've said in regards to people being unwilling to sacrifice their dignity is like the greater part. Because actually, those who have quit are predominantly, which this makes more sense, in healthcare and in tech jobs.
Listen.
Healthcare workers have faced so much burnout in the past, 2 years practically, since the beginning of this pandemic, and they've not been rewarded in anything but money. And it's actually funny because there are completely different ends of the spectrum when we talk about the Great Resignation, right? Healthcare and tech have long-standing been like the champions, financially, they get paid well, all of these things. But because of the pandemic, the demand for them was so high that they just felt like the money isn't worth it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're literally risking your life. You're having there's emotional burnout as well. But also too, like it's a thankless job a lot of the times, right? So we're seeing nurses who are being mandated now, right, to take the vaccine, and they're like, I was literally putting my life on the line every single day, and now I'm being forced to do something. Like, that's not fair to me.
Yeah.
And though I understand that, and I feel like everyone is very different on the vaccine or the non-vaccine side, and I respect their views, I can understand from a healthcare perspective. I can understand from at least a healthcare perspective, if I was a worker, that I would feel like, okay, so now I'm kind of used and abused, and now that I'm not following your rules, I'm out. Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think that they should mandate people, but people who are non-vaxxers, aka anti-vaxxers, those are different from people who are not wanting to be they don't want to mandate, right? Like, I understand that. You don't want someone to ever tell you, you have to do this or else. So I do think it is a very sad situation where people feel like they're forced to quit, right? Maybe that was their passion, but because their passion sometimes is nuanced, and there's, people up top with their own agendas, and it's just sad. But yeah, I don't blame nurses, CNAs, x-ray techs, anybody working in a hospital or even like a medical facility. It is not a fun time, but I really can't wait to see the workforce changing, the workplace change, because there are times where I'm like, in about 10 years, you can't do this. This whole, like, you have to be in the office all the time. That's just not going to happen.
That's also the thing. So a lot of people are quitting because they're being forced to return back to the office. And they're just like, what is the point in that, right? So many companies have caught the trend. You already know, like, a lot of tech companies are like, okay, we're willing to do remote work indefinitely, or for, maybe hybrid of 3 days, 2 days. You know what I'm saying? Well, 3 days at home, 2 days in office. Where some companies, a lot more, are like, get your asses back in town. We're putting it back into high gear. And people are like, I still don't have child care. I still don't have elderly care. I still, have a ridiculous commute. And now that I've been getting paid to do the work that I've been doing without the commute, without the headaches, without all the, the workplace niceties, we'll call them, people are like, why? Why should I come back? I'll just look for a job that'll let me remote.
I will say that I do look forward to a hybrid option. Yeah, definitely a hybrid model. But because I do think there is something important to have relationships outside of your homes. And I'm not trying to say that all people are like this, but there are people who are not productive at home. And let's just be honest, we've all gotten, we took our lunch at 12, you decided to take your nap real quick, you woke up, it was 2:27, you said, what happened?
That wasn't me. I will say though, and I'm not gonna lie.
But I think there is something to be said about coming back to some type of normalcy. For certain people, the job is not requiring it, but like, I work in the social service arena, and it is very difficult for people to do any type of paperwork. DSS, the Department of Social Services, is not taking people unless it's an appointment, and they barely pick up. Social Security, all these big major organizations that are not letting people come in, it is delaying a lot of these processes. I do agree, certain jobs can be done remotely. But I do think it's time for some people to, like, you know what, you got to go. Unless you want to change your whole career, and maybe that's why you're quitting. But let's ask for hybrid. That's fine. But I feel like some people are just like want to stay home because it's like, yeah, I don't have to drive 45 minutes to go get a commute. And I'm like, okay, I hear that. Save some money on some gas. Save the environment.
Now that gas is looking like a GPA instead of a price these days.
$3.45 for regular at Stop and Shop. I said, what?
Listen. But the thing is, and I think it depends on the industry that you're in.
Yeah,
and I think that's something that people should, take with some nuance when we talk about remote work. I know that in my job, I'm a systems analyst. Literally, my entire job is to be on the screen behind a computer. Yeah. So I don't need to be in person. I don't need face-to-face interaction most of the times unless I'm doing a presentation or such, in which case I have no problem coming down if I have to. Yeah. But on the day-to-day, I'm not needed in office. I'm just a body heating a seat. And a lot of people, like finance, accounting, they're facing that reality too. And so when they're getting offered other jobs that allow them to be remote, that allow for better pay and even better benefits, what is the plus of going to work? And a lot of the times people are like, it's socializing, it's all of these things. But I think that the pandemic has really shown that a work-life balance is really craved by people. And once they've had a taste, they're just not willing to go back as easily. And I feel like that's what the other half of the millennials, the younger ones who have been like, all right, I'm quitting, I'm leaving, that's part of the issue as well. Mm-hmm. However, on my personal Instagram, and Lola knows this because I'm trifling all the time, so I have been venting, I guess, my frustration when it comes to work. Yeah. And I find that those are the Instagram stories where I get the most reaction. Yeah. Apparently, a lot of people hate their jobs. And it's because they feel like they're being disrespected on the day-to-day or micromanaged on the day-to-day. They don't like
who they work for or who they work with. They don't hate their jobs, and I feel like that's another thing. That's what happens with nurses. Like that's what happens when you have burnout, right? The actual work is never the problem.
It's the people you work for.
And listen, there are some trifling people. There are things that are being done in my office that I'm just like, who raised you people?
Can you tell them what happened to you in your office the other day?
I don't want to relive the trauma. Anyways, my supervisor pulled me aside. She had gotten an anonymous call that I was making people uncomfortable. I was bringing bad morale, and allegedly I was coming in late and leaving early.
Which, by the by, is such an insane lie because Lola's the most on-time person I know. She gets there early to be on time. I get there on time to be late. Like, what?
Actually, Esther's been in my car several times and freaks out because the time that I have is actually 13 minutes ahead of time. Yep. But when you're always thinking you're late, you have to kind of just put a little pep in your step. And I was just like, I sat down there, and the worst part of this conversation was I felt like there was like an underlying threat of like, oh, we really value you as an employee, so I don't want to bring this up to the higher up. And I was like, go ahead, tell them. I was like, first of all, listen, if I am doing something wrong, I am an accountable person. Okay, I need some reprimanding, write me up, or whatever the case may be.
Also, address me in conversation would be nice.
Or that's what I was saying, because don't try to scare me to like make me think I'm going to lose my job or something, because A, I'm not doing anything inappropriate. If I was, there's a way to go about it, and this was not it at all. So I definitely went up to my higher up and I was like, so-and-so told me this. He's like, I've never heard of this once. I have no complaints.
It's the gaslighting.
He was like, I think you're fine. Don't worry about it. He's like, he was just like, let it go. But the point being was I didn't like the fashion that she spoke to me, because it was like underlining like, hey, watch yourself. And I'm just like, I'm not gonna watch nothing, okay? Not a dang thing. You hear me now? Because I know what I do. I know what I don't do. I do my job. I do more than my job sometimes. And if allegedly I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, let me go.
Let me go.
Set me free.
But you know what? It's so funny that you say that, because I had a similar incident.
Yours was, listen, to this day, I want to fight. I want to fight this woman.
So can I just say, genuinely, if you know me, I feel like I'm a genuinely happy person. Like, yeah. I'm not walking around like, ha, all the time.
But you're a jovial.
But I'm a happy person. And I've been doing this since high school. It just helps me. I don't know why. I hum when I work. I hum when I read. I hum when I'm happy. She has a beautiful voice.
First of all, so it's not even like you hum and it's like, okay. She can hold a tune. She can hold 2 tunes. She can sing wonderfully.
I'm not gonna and that's my thing. And also, I'm not like out here like, hum, like I'm not sitting here putting on a Broadway show. But if any of my high school AP classmates can see this, they can comment and say, I hum. I hum when I read. I hum when I work. I've been doing it since I was a kid. It helps me just retain information better. It just helps me process my stuff better. And so I had just been hired and I was humming, and like we have an open concept workplace. So it means that you don't have cubicles. Everyone can see you. You're looking everyone eye to eye, which I absolutely detest.
I don't like that cubicle.
I don't like it at all.
That's another thing they gotta fix. But continue. We'll talk about what I want the workforce to look like.
But so one day I get pulled aside by my manager and he goes, hey, can we talk? And I'm like, oh, I'm just so off guard. I thought he was going to give me a compliment. I thought I was being pulled to the side to be
like, I'm about to get a gold star.
Literally, like, because I had really been breezing through my work. I'd been exceeding expectations. And he was like, we have a problem. And I was like, you know, something like this. Like,
problema.
And he was like, you know, we've gotten reports that you're disturbing the workplace with your humming. Yeah.
Reports like plural?
Yeah, that's what he made it sound like. Fortunately, though, like, he knew me, he interviewed me, and he was like, you know, they're not really appreciative of that, and they feel as though, you know, you're disturbing the workplace, all these things, and just negative, just all negative follow-up because of my humming. And I was so shocked. I think you can read it on my face. I have zero poker face.
Yeah.
So the whole time I was like, just mouth agape, and I was just like, do you mind telling me who put in this report? And of course they're in HR, so they're like, you know, we can't do that. Yeah. But it's ironic because as he was wrapping up with me in the office, I walked out and I'm looking this woman in the eye, and she knows. I know she knows. And the only person who could know is the person that reported me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you slew foot flying devil. I'm like, how dare you? How dare you? I'm like, I bring joy to this cold, decrepit workplace, and this is my thanks?
But even, like, let's say, I think that's another thing that certain people in certain positions, you know, certain stature or status, or what is it the Indians have? It's like a caste system.
Yes.
Just not to label certain things to certain people who feel like every little thing you need to report on. I have people in my office. My CEO, my executive director, is known because he has an open door policy. People are in there all day complaining about others. And I'm like, if you can just take this 15 to 30 minute conversation about your next door neighbor, you could just, I don't know, do more work. You would get your shit done.
Talk to your neighbor and get to know them and address the problem head on. And you know what's crazy? I sat across from this woman. I knew it was her.
That's evil.
So I'm looking her in the eye. And I'm someone I'm confrontational, but not aggressively, as in I just confront the issue. So I think the next day went on and I was just like, hey, for anyone that I've disturbed with my humming, you know, please let me know. For future intents and purposes, it won't happen because you've already raised awareness about it. But I was like, well, please let me know if there's anything else that I can do. And this woman had the gall. Like, mind you, that's just me trying to say, I know it was you, Susan. But this woman had the gall to answer my rhetorical statement with a statement. And she goes, I'm quite uncomfortable that you wear jeans on days that are not Friday, because Fridays are our only dress down days. And
You're uncomfortable?
She's uncomfortable that I wear jeans. And I was like, mind you, they weren't even jeans. They were like these denim work pants.
Okay, so she's not uncomfortable if you wore denim on a Friday, but you wore a denim on a Thursday.
Yep, and she was uncomfortable.
It literally made her skin crawl.
And I was like, perchance, did this stop you from working? Did my wearing jeans distract you from putting out your report? No.
Listen, I feel like certain people have a hard time understanding that you don't have to like me to work with me. Mind your business.
Mind the business that pays you. How about that? You got a report in front of you. Mind the business that pays you.
And you know what I do think as women of color? We're just not snitches. Like, yo, if I really reported every single time I felt like someone slighted me, I would have a binder just dedicated.
It would be the burn book of reports. And you know what? I've only actually reported someone at work one time. I'm not even someone who reports someone, but this person was so out of pocket that I was like, no, this is actually against our policy as a company, actually violating code and conduct, and was doing it brazenly in the workplace. And I was like, oh, so no one's gonna report this man who was basically cussing out religions and ethnicities on the HR floor. But if Esther wears a pair of jeans, okay, and hums a tune, violation right up. I'm like, there are real injustices taking place. Yeah. But if you felt the need to take the time out of your day. But anyway, I digress.
I think some people just don't have enough excitement at their home.
Yep.
And they come to the workplace and like, let me just turn the pump. And it's like, you don't gotta do that. Like, you don't do it.
You know what it is, though?
And stop with the passive-aggressive emails. I detest that, especially when I'm down the hall.
Speak on it.
I got one passive-aggressive email, and I said, not today. Not today, not me, not on this Wednesday. It was first of all, like an essay. So you knew you had enough time to stop, to think before you hit send. So, but she had also CC'd other people in the department, and I was like, So I said, okay, cool. I can hit CC too. So I replied and I put my executive director. I was like, we can talk with Mike. Sure. Let's see. I said, I can see you. Let's talk about it with Mike. Crickets. Did not say a word to me. Walked past my cubicle. Not a word. Not a word. Mike pulls me like, what's going on? I'm like, she's passive aggressive. I don't like her emails. Like, oh, I'll talk to her. I'm like, please do. Because if I do, it's not going to end well.
You know?
I'm not an angry person. Violence is not natural to me.
It's natural to me.
It's not natural to me. If I feel it in my body, it's a problem. And I was like, I want to strangle you. I'm not Mother Teresa. I'm not a saint. But God, Lee, if you get me
that's true.
Up in arms, you might be the devil.
Now, speaking of boundaries in the workplace, Dave Chapelle. Oh, can we discuss it?
All right.
His new comedy special, I believe it's called The Closer.
Yep.
And I think that he knew. Like, I don't know about you,
he
but
said it.
Yeah, he knew. Like, he was like, this is going to be my last, stand up for a while, or special for a while. Also, like, just like The Closer in bold red. He already knew the backlash was going to come for this.
Yeah.
And I'm just so curious as to how you feel about that. Like, I want to know.
So, I just watched The Closer. I didn't watch it when the whole controversy was happening.
But go ahead.
So I just watched it, and it was Dave Chapelle
doing Dave Chapelle, yeah.
And I watched it, and I also understand that because I'm cisgendered, obviously, any jokes about trans people was really not gonna offend me particularly. But I was listening to some of these jokes, and I'm like, so nobody's gonna talk about how he joked about a preacher molesting him in the beginning of the thing, or he calls black women black bitches several times, and I was like, okay, Dave, keep on.
Or women bitches in general.
Yeah, like I wrote a list. I was like, okay, so I hear you guys, but like nobody had a problem about him making a joke about whooping a woman's ass. Like,
yeah,
no
joke. Gave her, he said, bitch, I'm about to slap you. Then he said, and then she was right. I proceeded to give her to work. He was like, I gave that bitch the business. He really fucked that up. And I was like, no one else found that scary?
The whole entire work of art. But one of the things that I understand is that there's a whole problem with trans visibility and people negating their existence and who they are as people. So I understand that there is a defensiveness about what is put out when it's not by a trans person or somebody who advocates for trans people, right? But I also think comedians are different. I've heard a plethora of jokes at black women,
at Spanish women, Spanish men, Asian men and women, especially in the time of COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and that to me is where I'm just like, I wonder why certain groups get treated differently.
And he made it at a point where I think he made a joke. He's like, my problem has never been gay people. He's like,
it's always been white people. But I think he also made this an incredible point in the beginning of his special, which was when he said, the baby actually killed someone in a Walmart.
Yeah. And
that did nothing to his career.
So I wanted to get on that one. I will say, that was before he was on and popping, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like that's different. Like, if I didn't even know he did that, right? But I did know a couple years ago, he punched a lady in the face.
I did not know
He
that.
punched a whole, I think it was a whole thing about, fans touching people that they didn't ask. So it was like a whole issue. But he's prone to, popping people. And it was no problem then. So I get what he was saying. But that specific incident, I'm like, we didn't know about that.
But also, a lot of people didn't know that Kevin Hart made a homophobic joke until he was hosting the Oscars. And again, that came and ruined, that kind of took down his career a peg for a little while, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that when it comes, that point, I think it's still valid. Yeah. In that he was like, people are getting away with murder, actual murder, and that gets less highlight than someone making a joke about a particular community. And that's not to say that community cannot be heard, but I do think that comedians have always, from the dawn of time, their whole thing is to laugh at society and for us to be able to laugh at ourselves.
And things age poorly, and that's okay. There are things that I watched from 10 years ago.
They're inappropriate now, for sure.
First of all, Vine, I used to spend hours laughing. Pure blackface.
Yeah.
Pure blackface.
Yep.
Obviously, it's aged poorly, and I think it's okay to say in retrospect that was not cool. Let's not continue to do that. My main issue is that they're saying his words are violence. We have to be very careful about what we're saying, and it's very confusing. I think this is what Dave was trying to say, is that they're demonizing a black man and saying that his words are violent towards other people, knowing that black people in general just have been demonized, and everything that they do is considered confrontational and aggressive. And someone could whip around like, that's violence towards black people. And I think we have to be careful about labeling certain things, right? So what is violence? According to Merriam-Webster, it's a noun. The use of physical force as to injure, abuse, damage, or destroy. An instance of violent treatment or procedure. Injury by or as if by distortion, infringement, or profanation. So violence is actually just trying to cause someone physical harm. So his words, I don't believe, are violent. I don't think they were inciting violence. I think there's plenty of times where I go on Facebook and someone's going on a racist rant or a sexist rant or whatever rant, and I go, this person is a racist, a sexist, a transphobe, a bigot. But I also understand that people who want to harm people don't need someone else to put a fuse under, light the fuse.
A light under them, yeah.
They don't. They were going to already do it. Like the people with the tiki torches in Charlottesville.
Yeah.
I agree that President Trump, I can't believe I have to say that, has allowed people to feel...
say Trump.
Has allowed people to feel brazen and bold about things. But those are things already inside of them. They wanted to do those things, okay? So I can't say, well, because Dave Chapelle made a joke, that people who don't like trans folk are now going to commit more violence.
Encouraged. And I'm like, and I just don't feel as though he has the same amount of visibility that other people have had who have made actual rants and actual encourage, like, you go out and you get those bad hombres. Like, you know what I mean? That's very different. However, I can understand that I'm not a part of that community, so I can't determine what, is and is not offensive. What I will say, though, is that I feel like Dave Chapelle said things that everyone is saying at home and in private. Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate that because when we talk about the Trump era, it arrived, right? Because everyone was walking on eggshells and everyone was politically correct, and you assumed that everyone was on your side because they weren't calling you the N-word, because they were giving you your appropriate pronouns. And then they went and voted Trump, who went to try to take away your actual rights and liberties. So my thing is, at least he's voicing what he's confused about. At least he's voicing the fact that he does want to support you, that he respects these things. Because I feel like then that allows us to come to the table and be like, let's have a conversation. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Let's come to an understanding. However, when we come to the table and we're like, no, these are the rules. You can't joke about us. You can't talk about us. You can't do this. Yeah. You're alienating people.
He made so many jokes, and I'm so surprised. He made Jewish jokes, like...
Anti-Semitism was crazy in there. I thought that was going to get more highlight.
I was surprised, too. He was like, space Jews. I was like, okay.
And that was when I was like, rewind it back. But that's my thing. And, like, I was like, I think that when we come to the table already up in arms, it makes understanding very difficult. Like, you already alienate people. I think that makes the situation worse than it is, because now we can't talk about it. Now it's one of the things that no one wants to answer, no one wants to ask questions about, because you're labeled ignorant. You call some, and mind you, society is learning. So it's like we're continuing to progress, with this in society. And the more we alienate people from asking those questions and being able to engage, the more we're going to have people inside their homes voting to take away liberties.
I think he made a point to say that he's talking about, I think, and this is what I picked up, white people who are of the LGBTQIA plus community. He said the joke was, they're minorities until it's time to be white again. And that they sometimes will call the police on people. So I do think maybe that's what his focus was on, and I think that's a conversation to have. I feel like the same thing with feminism. Like, I feel like feminism is the umbrella, but there isn't always a lot of camaraderie amongst white women, women of color, even with the colorism aspect.
And he pointed that out too with Sojourner Truth. Yeah. And I was like, that's my thing. And that's kind of been Dave Chappelle's entire shtick. That's his whole gimmick, right? Is that he gives very harsh truths in a sarcastic way, and that's his comedy. Yeah. And people actually learn through that kind of comedy. It kind of reminds me of political satire. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you listen to Trevor Noah, if you listen to, like, even his predecessors, like, they're very good at speaking to harsh realities with a tone that lightens it up, but it engages people. It makes people wonder, hey, like, I actually want to look into this. Hey, I actually want to learn more about it. It opens the door. And every time we close the door to uncomfortable conversations, I think that we light a fire under ignorance. We light a fire under fear. We light a fire under unwillingness to learn. Yeah. And it's costing us too much.
I think it's tough. But I know that the group that were upset, especially those upset with Netflix putting it on the platform, said that they wanted a discussion with Dave, and I think Dave said he wanted to, and there's a lot of like mixed signals going on, but I do think if a conversation could happen, there has to be an acknowledgement of transphobia and what that is, what it looks like, especially in like Black and brown communities, like super homophobic, super transphobic, you know. So I think hopefully whenever that conversation happens, I think when we talk about intersectionality, I wish there was a conversation where you can support people, but understand that some people need more support than others. It doesn't look the same. The way you move about isn't the same. So I don't know. I'll see what happens, but I didn't find it offensive. How do I explain it? I found things offensive, but it didn't hurt my feelings because, like I said, the space Jew thing, like the plethora of things that he was saying, I was like, but then again, you know, that's just me, and I think there's a difference between not liking something, being offended by something, and something actually inciting violence.
And I'm like...
And I don't think that's what it was. For me, personally,
Exactly.
I don't think it was inciting violence, and I don't think it should be taken down just because it hurts people's feelings.
Because a lot of comedy hurts people's feelings. And that's how I feel about it. But let us know how you feel in the comments. You already know where we're going with this. We're closing out, so be sure to like, follow, and subscribe if you haven't already on our YouTube, on our Instagram, which is @the GSM Podcast.
Alrighty, guys. Catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.